Hello YouTube, it's Nobility Bibulus. Live streaming, the easily accessible, enjoyable, and seemingly harmless online activity that has gained popularity since the mid-2010s. Thanks to websites like Twitch, millions of gamers and e-whores are able to broadcast themselves to the internet, or a version of themselves that they've meticulously created for the camera, masking all their flaws, which include, but are not limited to, an abundant use of racial slurs, involvement in sexual harassment, and their history and continued abuse of prescription medication. But what if you could become the next big streamer for $16? Well, unfortunately you can't, but you can help manage one. Meet Amy. Her appearance tells you she's a quiet, reserved, kind young lady. In reality, she's ridiculously mentally ill, self-absorbed, and abusive. Her lack of self-control and desperate need for approval has resulted in her creating OMG Kawaii Angel, her streamer alter ego. OMG Kawaii Angel is as generic as her name. She's a streamer and the internet's latest angel, who's strategically nice and flirty to the lonely nerds who watch her, who she makes fun of in her private Twitter. On the sidelines of this operation is you, the player, P-chan, romantic partner of Amy and coincidentally non-existent to her supposedly single online persona. Amy trusts you with managing not only her streamer persona, but her life. And as the player, you're given every tier 3 sub's dream, the freedom and luxury of controlling your favorite streamer's life in any way you see fit. You can influence Amy's life with romantic support, domestic abuse, making love, nymphomania. You can make her a responsible patient, a drug addict, self-assured, or suicidal. Depending on your behavior and influence on Amy, the game can also end in a plethora of different ways. For example, my Amy became so addicted to having sex with me, she quit streaming so we could fuck forever. My second Amy became so depressed, she live streamed herself jumping off a roof, killing herself instantly. My third Amy asked me to cut her to relieve stress, and I confused the minigame with the combat from Undertale, so I kind of like sliced her in the same spot each time. The options are as vast as the list of addictions and self-destructive behaviors that the human mind is capable of. Amy is controlled by the player, literally, through a desktop. She has a webcam, a great tool for getting a visual on her mood, as well as 6 apps you can use to plan out her day. Days have 3 segments, day, noon, and night. Some activities take up 1 segment, others 2. For example, playing video games with her moves from day to dusk, while taking her out on a date will turn from day to night, skipping dusk. If an activity has an exclamation point on it, she will gain a stream idea after completing it. And any activities boost her proficiency at a certain attribute. At night, the only time she can stream, you can choose a stream idea. And Kawaii Angel gains a number of followers based on the idea, the attributes she's leveled up by doing a certain action, and depending on how many numbers of streams she's done consecutively. While streaming, a window pops up along with an intro. Amy has now transformed into Kawaii Angel. And will perform whatever idea you've picked, whether it's a Let's Play, ASMR, lewd, celebration stream, etc. That being said, you almost always have the freedom to make these choices yourself for Amy. If you don't want her to stream at night, but instead have sex with you, maybe you'll stream tomorrow instead. If tonight you hate the idea of having sex with your girlfriend, you can have other guys on Tinder take her out, you cuck, and end the night that way. In terms of progression, and if Amy's mentally functional, it's usually better to stream during the night though. While streaming, chatters will leave their input, and some of them are less than nice. Removing harassment from the stream will cause her to lose a stress point. It's not totally necessary to do this, but you know, if you want to lose some free stress points, go ahead. Some users will donate super chats too. You can select the ones you like, even the mean ones, and see her reaction to each chat. Funny enough, for a game about a live streamer, I find live streaming to be a part of the game that is incredibly unengaging. There's not much at stake to keep her chat clean. Maybe you'll lose a couple stress points. That doesn't really give much motivation. And although a low amount of animation and text seem cool from an aesthetic point of view, after like 4 streams, it feels repetitive. There's not much variation visually or auditorily to keep me interested in playing each and every broadcast out. Luckily, you can hit the skip button for each of them, and I highly recommend it. Throughout the day, Amy will text you a lot. If you forget to open them, eventually she will break up with you, unlocking the flatline ending. This is by far the most annoying part of the game, as some actions like streaming will block you from reading text messages. So if you notice a text go off while immediately starting a stream, know that your days with Amy are numbered. Being broken up with for ignoring her is annoying because when something like... What is it when you don't pay attention to someone? When something like neglect in a relationship is set to a number on a dating sim about a complex relationship, not every scenario is going to play out very realistically. There's a set number for how many times you can ignore a text. It's 5, but you can never lower it over time. So if you decide to ignore her 4 times and then get your act together, be a good boyfriend or a good controlling boyfriend for 20 consecutive days, and then ignore her one more time, she will break up with you. Ironically, you only need to read the text to stay on good terms with her. That's right. You can leave her on red. You can dub her repeatedly, but not opening the message is the deal breaker. Wait, what? Throughout gameplay, P-chan has to manage 4 of Amy's stats: followers, stress, affection, mental darkness. Leaving stats too high or low will alter Amy's mindset and her actions. For example, if her stress becomes too high, she'll seem very agitated through her webcam. Eventually, she'll ask you to cut her. Also, at some point, the screen can tilt and remain like that for the rest of the game. In fact, having over 80 stress on day 24 procs my favorite ending. Genuinely one of the best mental breakdowns I've seen in gaming history. In this ending, at this point, Amy will take complete control of the game and spiral into madness. I won't spoil it because it's genuinely awesome, but it was nice to like let go of control in a game about controlling a girl and kind of watch this mini movie of this femcel losing her shit. If her affection is too low, she'll leave you for another guy, which you'll find out suddenly when she starts a stream without your approval titled "With My Prince Charming." She even posts a selfie of them together on Twitter. If her affection is too high, well... yeah. If her mental darkness is too high, she'll unlock more drugs to abuse and have a much darker perception of reality. It's also a great start to unlocking the suicide end. Amy's stats are manipulated based on the actions you pick that she takes throughout the day. Any action that can be classified as recreational, spending time with you, playing video games, sex, watching a movie, sleeping, will decrease stress, and if it involves P-chan, raise affection. Anything to do with streaming, for example, streaming, spending time on Twitter, reading hate comments online, will affect stress and mental darkness, depending on what it is and the severity of its impact on her mental state. For example, reading hate comments will only affect her stress by 2, while streaming lewd content will not only stress her out more significantly, but increase her mental darkness when she starts to realize how vain her fans are and how surprisingly easy it is to gain fame by showing skin. Time alone or spent with other men or being stressed out like live streaming, maybe having darker topics, will decrease affection and usually raise mental darkness. On the other hand, streams celebrating the milestone she's hit have no impact on her stress levels. Managing stress is one of the most difficult parts of the game. You can take shortcuts and give her a bunch of drugs to abuse, and this will lower stress pretty significantly, but it'll also raise her mental darkness, which is really hard to lower. Most options that do lower it by just a bit. Nothing compared to how easy it is to raise it. One thing that does lower mental darkness and stress is sleeping. Sleeping is OP. Almost. Obviously, if you spend your days telling Amy to sleep her stress away, you risk losing on finding new stream ideas because you're wasting time and not doing activities that spark inspiration. By sleeping all the time, you also risk not streaming, as you can only stream at night. Streaming consecutively also gives you a streaming bonus, which helps Kawaii Angel gain followers more rapidly. So if you spend a day recovering her stats, you're harming her channel's growth. Ironically, all this stat management aside, I don't believe stressing yourself out trying to keep her healthy is the point of the game. Needy Streamer Overload does a fantastic job at exploring the psychological damage of consuming way too much internet. And I think it's better to max out whatever stat scares you the most and see how this narcissistic thunder cunt copes with it. In this game, the journey beats the destination. But also, some of the destinations are cool, so look out for that. It's better to enjoy the chaos while it's happening, and, you'll probably get a good ending out of it. But if you don't believe me and feel like making Amy happy, let me tell you this. One of the most beneficial to her endings in the game is achieved by getting her 1 million followers, above 80 affection, so you're showing her a lot of love, and having a mental darkness below 80. Statistically, you've just made her the happiest and healthiest she can be, and she will leave you for it. In this ending, Amy is an internet celebrity and celebrates her success with a stream titled I Bought a New Home. She tweets publicly about how happy she is, even sends you texts directly expressing how grateful she is for your life together in the future. And then P-chan finds her new private account where she admits how bland her life feels, how much of a drag streaming is, how emotional she gets for lying to you, and how living with you is now boring. When you send a follow request to her new account, she immediately blocks you. An ordinary happiness may not have been what she wished for. My point is, Amy is a complicated character. Well, let me put it bluntly. She's fucking awful. So if you're going to try to play this game, quote unquote, correctly by keeping her mentally and physically healthy, like a healthy partner would, well, the game is going to punish you for that because that's not what this game is about. Funny enough, going off the standard that staying with her is a good thing, the best ending I could find is called Do You Love Me? In this one, she posts pictures about a date you go on, practically coming out about your relationship with her to the public, despite her fans crying about it. In this ending, she doesn't leave you. She doesn't kill herself or ruin her public image dramatically by having a nude live stream. Maybe the incels are sad about her being in a relationship, but honestly, that's okay. After hitting 1 million subscribers, Amy decides that streaming isn't enough for her and she needs more, whatever that means, and says her final goodbye to her fans in a stream. This ending is most beneficial to the player for 2 reasons. 1, she doesn't leave the player, and 2, in almost every ending, the streaming lifestyle has led to her demise, so having your girlfriend not die or go like radically in fucking sane is a good thing, I guess. And yet, to get this ending, you have to give her a lot of affection, yes, but also fuck her up mentally at the same time. The game is showing you through endings that she is the type of character to prefer an unhealthy but exciting relationship over a healthy one. She prefers drug addiction to sobriety, a life of harassment online over solitude and peace, because little to no drama is boring for her. I'm not going to psychoanalyze Amy too hard. Obviously, there's an argument that she doesn't actually want all this chaos, but probably had a terrible upbringing or poor coping mechanisms that spark a thirst for validation and a feeling of inadequacy that makes her feel like she's undeserving of love. But it's interesting to come to the conclusion that you cannot fix Amy. Treating her right results in failure. Paradoxically, abusing her sustains your relationship and makes for the most engaging, entertaining endings. It also makes you think. I mean, the relationship that P-chan and Amy have is fundamentally unhealthy. To allow another human being to ultimately decide every choice you make throughout life is incredibly controlling. So maybe the endings where you both break up are actually good endings, no matter how boring or bad you might feel as a result. Hey, you know, me calling the breakup endings the bad, boring ones and alluding that the self-destructive ones are fun, it kind of makes me sound like Amy. This brings up another interesting topic. What makes a good ending in video games? Natalie Zena Walshots in a thatshelf.com article argues something that suits the tone of the game emotionally and narratively, something that isn't necessarily positive but satisfying. If we use Natalie's definition, any ending resulting in Amy's death, mental breakdown, or radical behaviors, by this definition, is a good ending. Because not only does it suit the game emotionally and narratively, they're not necessarily positive, but satisfying. As the game gives no reason to cheer for Amy, she's clearly a horrible person. Let me make one thing clear. It's okay for someone to be morally unjust, but likable as a character. Justified Criminals is a trope in entertainment where a character found morally unjust is portrayed sympathetically. These characters, like CJ from San Andreas,
"You okay, man?"
are usually victims of a fucked situation, like a corrupt system which pushes low-income families into a life of drug dealing and robbery. Add the fact that CJ's mother needs funding for a life-saving operation, and he wants to use the money to also send his sister to college, despite being dirt poor. Suddenly, robbing people at gunpoint is seen as a desperate attempt to save his family, and any destruction because of it is just a means to an end.
On the fucking Grove Street, you down?
I'm always down.
Amy is the complete opposite of CJ in the fact that she isn't just a victim to the system, rather engages in it directly and perpetuates the problem seemingly perfect online personas have in our chronically online society, like perfectionism, lack of social skills, loss of privacy, materialism, lack of communication, bad coping skills, problems she deals with personally and directly attributes to her stress, depression, drug addiction, self-harm, etc. It also negatively affects those that are susceptible to the dangers of idolization. Let me make one thing clear. There is nothing morally unjust about being a content creator. Whether your content is focused on family-friendly content for teens or even a mature audience, sexual content included. But to construct an idolized, perfect image of a character you play on and off stream is very damaging to your viewers, to yourself, and is, in my opinion, morally unjust. It's human nature to be performative and project a version of yourself that is completely disassociated with reality. For example, I can't justify ever telling your coworkers at Home Depot that you like to watch your wife get fucked by other men. You don't need to jeopardize your reputation purely for the sake of vulnerability. Privacy in our personal lives is important and sometimes necessary, especially professionally. It's also human nature for individuals who struggle with their own identity to latch onto images of influential figures like celebrities for support. This has been happening forever, and if you're popular and successful, this is practically unavoidable. People will look up to you, build an image of you, and hold you to an impossible standard that they've created in their minds based on your accomplishments. The problem relies on idols taking advantage of both of these parts of the human nature to the extreme and meticulously creating an online persona, a product that inspires obsession, comparison, and codependent tendencies in their fans. By actively lying and manipulating people into believing a seemingly perfect fictional character that you're playing is real, you create a toxic environment that's damaging to everyone's mental health, including your own, because you're setting an expectation that no healthy individual can live up to, not even yourself. Ame both benefits from her seemingly perfect public image, but in many ways it's a prison as she's unable to behave like a regular human being in fear that people might discover that she has flaws. These influencers purposely construct an environment that sparks feelings of inadequacy, fear of missing out, idolization, and many more behaviors responsible for the rise of anxiety and depression in people today. They function as an infallible, fictional narrative of a fake life its victims could never compete with, but perpetually compare themselves to. I'm willing to bet more often than not, these idols are more than aware of these ramifications, but just like Ame, they justify their actions with the loads of money and attention they're receiving, purposely ignoring the message they're sending to the misguided and impressionable youth and the desperate, confused, lonely men and women who are looking for anything to cure their feelings of inadequacy and isolation. Plausible deniability is the backbone of idols. They can always claim they're unaware of the damage they're doing to society, or like destructive substances like smoking or drinking, claim it's the user's responsibility to use or engage with their product in moderation. And while that may be true, people should definitely take more responsibility for their own health. Ironically, packs of cigarettes have a warning about potential damage to lungs, hearts, and pregnancies. Alcohol companies have guidelines preventing actors from drinking in their commercials, refusing to communicate that happiness from drinking is a guaranteed reality in a world filled with alcoholism.
Neil, you can't drink the Heineken Light, just hold it up.
What do you mean, why can't I drink it?
There are rules about drinking in the commercial.
Casinos urge you to gamble responsibly and call a helpline if you're addicted. All these companies are taking responsibility from a morality standpoint by making it clear there's a grim, unhealthy future if you continually use and abuse these products, because yes, these products can make you feel good temporarily, but prolonged use can also damage your mental and physical health significantly, if not outright kill you. My question is, why can't idols do the same? There's a reason why idols don't have a warning communicating the dangers of developing a parasocial relationship, that the characters they play are not real people. They want to take advantage of you, suspend your disbelief as much as possible, so that you become over-obsessed, anxious, depressed. As long as you become addicted and throw your life and money away consuming their content, they don't give a shit. And that's why Ame's actions are so fucking disgusting. She's completely aware of the effects she has on her fans. She actively makes fun of them to her boyfriend, but she justifies her actions not to save her family heroically like CJ, but to validate her own selfish needs. Ame is simultaneously a victim to the system, but actively engages in it and purposely makes it worse for everyone for her own benefit, and that's why she's an unlikable asshole.
That's what I would say. It's hard for young people now because they're hooked. They're addicted. God has blessed us with free will. Now it's free will magnified, free will on steroids. We all want to be liked, but now we want to be liked by 16 million. We have to ask ourselves, what is the long-term, if not the short-term effect of too much information?
Even if you are a victim to a system, actively engaging in it and purposely making things worse for everyone for your benefit makes you an unlikable character. For example, if CJ were to stop being a man who's forced into making tough, morally questionable decisions by an oppressive society and instead, let's say, joins law enforcement,
Stupid Mexican.
and starts using his power in the criminal justice system to oppress other minorities that were in his shoes, like Samuel Jackson's character, who does the same thing.
You haven't forgotten about us, have you, boy?
Hell no, Officer Tenpenny.
He becomes incredibly less likable. Most games and gamers define the good ending as the one where everyone is okay. In gaming, many video games have taught players that the good ending is the most fairy tale-esque one, where everyone is happy, all the problems have been resolved, and there's a bright, happy future for our characters. And it's exactly the type of ending I fucking hate. None of the endings in Needy Streamer Overload are happy, and it's why I love it. There's no reason to root for Amy. It's not her fault she grew up in a vain society that inspires her unhealthy behaviors, but it's her responsibility to grow as a person, to stop herself from becoming the next online Jesus Christ in actual reality in the game. Thus, any fairy tale ending would do the entire narrative a disservice, as the whole point of the game is about criticizing stream culture and bringing light to how unhealthy it is. That being said, if you have sympathy towards Amy because, you don't like to see people lose their shit, then the best ending for you would be the least engaging ones. There are endings where Amy will quit streaming. If you don't get 10,000 followers by day 10, you can't pay the rent for your guys' new home and she moves back with her parents. If you don't stress her out enough, she becomes bored and becomes a quote-unquote normie and goes back to school. You can never quite fix Amy, but you can unlock endings which deter her from a life that would indulge in all her deepest self-destructive desires. But I will say, These endings are boring, they are unsatisfying, and quite frankly, it doesn't fit the narrative. The fun of the game, the point of the game, is to see Amy spiral out of control. So I implore anyone playing this game to max out that stress bar. See exactly what 100 mental darkness means for a girl like this. Get over 1 million subscribers. Not because you want Amy to succeed, but because it's fun to see how she's gonna fumble the ball under pressure. Because if you're here to rescue Amy from a self-destructive life of becoming a streamer, if your goal is to get that fairy tale ending, then Needy Streamer Overload isn't the game for you. Now, if you're okay with making her suffer in 27 different ways, you unlock the true ending. In this ending, you unlock Data Zero by completing every ending in the game. And Amy completely takes over and plays the game herself this time. She's determined to discover herself as a person more. She's more humble, calling about 15,000 followers the perfect amount, and admits she likes interacting with people as opposed to shitting on them privately. She realizes she doesn't need P-Chan, and living her own life herself is the best way to go about it. She still makes some mistakes, but seems to have a healthier mindset this time around. She thanks you in the end and says goodbye. Closing all the windows, you notice you can close the webcam this time, something impossible to do in the game normally, as any previous attempt reopens it. Behind where the webcam would be is also a text file called Secret, which Amy wouldn't allow you to access previously either. But this time, she does. Opening the text file reveals that P-Chan is nothing but a figment of her imagination, a romantic partner she created in her mind to cope with her current situation. This ending might seem like the best one. In the way, Amy learns to be more of an independent, whether P-Chan is real or not. She comes to terms with making her own decisions and leaves the situation, making some mistakes, sure, but generally unscathed. She suffers because of her lifestyle, just not that dramatically. Or does she? She talks about inventing a new P-Chan. Like, what the fuck? Like, I genuinely have no idea what this ending is looking to accomplish. If you weren't her abusive significant other all along, then every decision you made was actually hers. So the idea that she learned how to be more independent through this ending isn't unique. It's been happening the whole time. An argument one can make is at least she stopped her fantasy about her imaginary friends making decisions for her, grounding herself more in reality. But no, that's not true. She admits in the file to wanting to create another P-Chan, so she's still gonna have the same issues. She's just waiting to invent a better version, furthering her obsession with a fabricated partner, even discussing marriage. Most importantly, within the ending, she still partook in a plethora of self-destructive behaviors. She's healthier, but not by a huge margin. Like, yay, she didn't kill herself. What a progression. This ending doesn't change much other than she doesn't die or lose herself entirely. It seems like it just contains a twist for the sake of shock value. And narratively speaking, it feels as cheap as those "the whole movie was a dream" theories. I would have much preferred if they kept it ambiguous, if they were gonna go that route at all. If anything, it justifies why she would get bored of the player so easily. You're not a real person. She can be as much of an asshole as she wants to you. You can abuse her as much as you can because you're just her. One popular theory is every playthrough in the game is just Amy or an AI she built, running through simulations how her career could end based on the decisions that she could make. This ending is her choosing the best route, indulging in what she wants, but avoiding going off the multiple deep ends. So should everyone just engage in stream culture and not take LSD for 5 days consecutively? Or not become a religious zealot? Or should people not kill themselves? What's the lesson to take away from this ending? I feel like it's an entire disservice to the narrative. There should be repercussions to this lifestyle. You know, like in reality. Luckily, in this ending, the true ending, not only does our piece of shit protag narrowly avoid any major repercussions, she hasn't truly learned her lesson to become an independent, as she's making a new variant of the imaginary friend that's killed her a bunch before. She even wants to marry him. She's just going further deep into it. So, fuck you, player. Drink Monster every day, whore yourself online, destroy your body, and leave before any noticeable effects take place. That's woke. Honestly, this ending only opens up a can of worms and destroys any consistency the game's had. After I was done being upset at this stupid narrative decision and, with the help of some research, here is what I believe is the origins of P-chan and the point of the game. Again, the player is P-chan, her significant other. The player is not real, and the player is God. All three simultaneously. This is evident in the fact that it's literally true. It's how video games work, actually. Imagine you were playing this game on your computer. You would take control of P-chan, making them, and you, Amy's partner. You are also not actually P-chan, but a gamer playing a video game, making you not real in her world. And you are also God, because you are, at all times, directly affecting the events of the game. More importantly, Amy's entire reality. So this whole time you are quite literally her significant other, not real, and God at the same time. Each ending in the game, Amy is simply aware of one of your forms, or maybe knows all three but chooses to interact with you as one. Similar to knowing Jesus Christ, God, and the Holy Spirit are one, but talking to Jesus or God specifically. Any ending where she dumps you, and most of the time through gameplay, Amy clearly sees you as her significant other and treats you like a human being, albeit in a shitty way. In particular endings where Amy gets enlightened, probably due to the overconsumption of LSD, she breaks the fourth wall and chooses to refer to the player as God, claiming she's known you've been watching over her this entire time and speaks through the game to you. She even tries to touch you through the screen, but can't, obviously. At first glance, it might seem like this bitch has completely lost her rocker here, but if she's a video game character whose entire world is controlled by you, is she wrong in behaving this way? And in the ending where she decides to become completely independent, deciding to play the game herself and call you useless, finally allowing you to read the secret TXT revealing that you are indeed not real, Amy in this ending is aware of the fact that you are not real in her world. At all points in the game, you both live with and have a relationship with each other, which is both true and untrue. You are P-chan. P-chan is dating Amy, but you, the player, aren't actually dating a set of animations and text in this video game known as Amy. P-chan is Amy's imaginary friend, or an AI, but at some point you take over and P-chan becomes a vessel for the player. It's why, despite living under the same house as her, which you do in terms of the story, but not actually because you're probably in your room on a computer, Amy can never physically interact with you and has the computer to communicate with you. You are both there and aren't. Amy also seems aware of this. In the Needy Girl overdose ending, Amy shotguns you 4 questions, and if you answer any incorrectly, she will accuse you of not loving her. Eventually, she'll become so frustrated, she'll stab the computer screen. And you can see her reflection on the broken glass. Except, wait a minute, why do we see her reflection in the glass? If Amy stabbed her own computer, why do we see her? We should have our own computer. We're supposed to be a significant other in a distant room on a separate computer. How is she stabbing our screen without walking over to our room? Well, because she knows we're not real. She knows that destroying her computer is as effective as destroying ours. She's not mad at an imaginary friend. If she was, she'd just invent a new one. She's not mad at a real significant other. If they lived in the same house, she'd confront them or just walk away and break up with them. She's not mad at God. She's literally cutting ties with the player by breaking the game. Needy Streamer Overload isn't just a game about criticizing streamer culture. It's a game about criticizing streamer culture, idol culture, internet addiction, shedding light on abusive relationships, mental illness, self-hatred, loneliness. It's a game about you being God. It's a game about you being an AI built to determine what life choices Amy should make. It's a game about you being her significant other, a cuck. Not real. It's all up to interpretation, but also all true at the same time.